Thank you to Adobe for sponsoring today's video.
Hey guys, welcome back and welcome to a video all about how I create my videos. I'm going to talk you through my editing software, any tips that I have, what fonts I use, music, sound effects, everything, the whole deal. Now I'm going to be intercutting editing me into this video quite often, so you will see the process sort of firsthand as well. I'm going to begin with a general intro to me and my content, because I think that's important as to what equipment I have and things like that, because I previously was a media student. I also have a huge passion for filmmaking and content creation away from YouTube too, so I do have a lot of equipment, but that's not needed to create good content. Okay, so I'm going to begin first off with how I plan my videos. So planning my videos takes place on Notion. I did a whole Notion tour, which is like one of my most recent videos, so if you want to go and watch that, you can. For certain videos I plan properly, but for others I just kind of wing it and go with it, because I think for me those are the videos that I enjoy most, when nothing is scripted, nothing seems like I'm like performing for the camera. Those are the videos that I enjoy doing. Okay, so starting off with my actual file organization, because this is a huge part of how I create my videos and create them more efficiently, because a while ago I kind of just shoved everything into one folder and just like kept having to go back and forth and back and forth. So now I have myself a video template. I'm going to put myself in the corner and I'll talk you through it. So I have numbers 1 to 6, this just keeps it very organized. In number 1 I have a video template. This has my pre-made Premiere templates that I will talk you through in a second. Everything that I would need in every project I make. So that is very, very useful. As you can see over here, it's just on my desktop at the moment. So if I wanted to create a new one, I just drag it over onto my external hard drive and it copies that. I then have number 2, which is footage. Now, for the majority of my projects, if I have different footage, I'll have A roll and a B roll, or if it's a couple different days, I'll have like a folder that says Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, just to keep it a bit more organized. But for some videos, like this one, if there's only a couple of main clips that I've filmed, then I just kind of shove it all into the footage folder and sort it out in Premiere, which I will show you. 3, I have music. I use music all the time in my videos, so I have music for this project, and then also regularly, I've realised I spelled regularly wrong. Where did the R go? Number 4 is sound effects. I always use sound effects, so I have sort of my main sound effects. I then have number 5, which is graphics. So for example, up right now you'll see the little subscribe graphic that I've got. It has audio. I bought it a while ago. And then number 6 is just miscellaneous, so there's nothing in there right now, but if there's something that, I don't know, whether it's a screenshot, anything else that I need to add into the video that maybe doesn't fit into one of those folders, I just shove it in miscellaneous and do that. Moving into equipment, so I have a lot of equipment purely because of my background. I freelance as well, so all of my equipment is high enough quality for freelancing and for doing that as my job. So all of my equipment is for that too. It's not necessarily just for YouTube, but if I've got the good equipment, I may as well use it for YouTube as well. So I'm going to begin with what I use when I film. So for the majority of my videos, I use the Canon M50 Mark II. It's literally perfect for anything I want to film. The quality is incredible. I also own a very similar camera, which is the Canon M6 Mark II, which is equally as amazing. I absolutely love that camera, and I use that mainly for my photography and other work. However, I did used to use it for YouTube as well, so that is something that I've used a lot in the past. And of course, like every vlogger and YouTuber ever, I have the trusty Canon G7X Mark II. Now, I love this camera, it is so useful, and I usually take shots on this when I'm out and about, if I'm filming montage clips, because it's smaller, it's just easier to carry around with me, and also the microphone on it is actually pretty good. So if you are starting out, this is a great camera, but would recommend just starting with your phone. If your content is great, then the quality isn't as important. I use my phone, my old camera, which wasn't very good, and my brother's camera for like, what, a year and a half, I think. My tripod of choice is this Manfrotto tripod. The legs extend, which is really useful, and then you just twist this and you can adjust the level of your camera. Also does portrait, which is amazing for things like reels or TikToks, so Yeah, love this. I do have a huge tripod. This is admittedly quite an expensive tripod, but as I said, it's because I use it for my freelance stuff. I've just realised I haven't turned on my little LED light. I kind of want my LED light on now. I realised I haven't turned it on. Bear with me. Okay, we're back. We like that. We like the little LED light. Cute. In terms of lighting, I really like to use natural light purely because I find it the easiest to work with. Sometimes it can be a bit of a pain if it's like a really sunny day because the sun keeps coming in and out and it's painful to film like that. So if I am filming on a day like that, I will use my LED light, which I'm using right now. This light is the GVM LED panel, which is amazing. The quality of this light is incredible and it really does make a difference to my videos. If I was to turn this off now, this whole video would just not look as nice. I have a lamp over there, which I used a lot before I even purchased a light. You've got to make the most of the equipment that you already have. It's not necessarily about the equipment, it's about how you use it. Microphone and audio wise, I think this is one of the most important things about YouTube. You can have really bad visuals, but if your audio is great, people don't notice as much. Whereas vice versa, you know, you can have amazing visuals and amazingly edited video, but if the audio is bad, nobody's gonna watch it. I have an onboard mic for my camera. Now, this is what I use mostly because most of my stuff is sort of piece to camera, chatting to you. If I'm recording a voiceover, I usually just use my phone. It's really easy. The quality of microphones on these phones is incredible. And yeah, I use this. I fix it up a little bit in my editing software and that seems to do the job for me for voiceovers. I also quickly want to talk to you about camera settings because this is so important. Now, I usually record in the flattest camera option that I possibly can because it is the best for color grading, and I'll go into that in a little bit. I use 50 frames per second. I use autofocus most of the time just because of the nature of my videos. Alright, so how do we fix audio then? How do we fix audio that might be a little bit muffled, might have a bit of background noise, might not be as clear and have as much clarity as we want? So this audio was recorded on my phone. It feels a bit more informal to record on that than through my laptop or through my microphone. So usually I will just record on my phone and edit the audio. So I'm going to show you how I do that now. This audio currently sounds like this.
Thank you to Adobe for sponsoring today's video.
The levels on here look okay, but I'm going to bring it over into the audio panel, and I'm also just going to mute the music behind. So usually I bring up my levels to about -6, -3, purely because I find that works for my videos. However, completely depends. This is my audio workspace. This is how I organize my audio. So I have an audio clip mixer. Now this is very useful because it means that I can see the difference between my music levels, my audio actual levels, and also then any background noise and sound effects and stuff like that. On the right hand side, we have the essential sound panel. Now this is one of my favorite things that Adobe has on Adobe Premiere Pro. So you can click what it is, what the sound is. So this would be dialogue. So you click into dialogue and you can see there are certain things that you can do. So usually what I will do is put a preset on. I really like the podcast voice. I think that always kind of works for me.
Thank you to Adobe for sponsoring today's video.
It sounds a lot clearer. However, there is still
Thank you to Adobe
some noise in the background that I can hear. It does sound a little bit too edited, so I'm going to pull the podcast voice down. I'm also going to change the dynamic slightly to more natural. So for me, I'm just going to add a little bit of a DS, not too much because otherwise it makes it sound a bit weird. And that is usually everything that I do to audio, and that sounds a lot better. Moving into the equipment that I use for editing and for other parts of the creative process. Now, my main piece of equipment for YouTube full stop really is this bad boy. It's really portable, I can take it anywhere, so very useful. Something else that I always carry with me if I am recording, if I'm editing, is my external hard drives. Now, I don't carry all three with me because one does the job. My main one at the moment is this WD Elements one. However, the lacy ones are definitely my favourites. So I'm going to be transferring stuff over to these and probably buying a couple more because these ones are almost full, which is crazy. Okay, let's get into the main part of this video, which is the editing. So for me, I use Adobe Premiere Pro to edit. I absolutely love the workflow of it. I love the way of working around that. I've really spent a lot more time teaching myself the ins and outs of Premiere, and I found a way to make editing much faster for myself. Moving into arguably my favorite part of editing, which is color grading. I absolutely love color grading. It makes such a huge difference to the video. Now, in terms of how I color grade, I'm still trying to work out the best settings for me as to what works best, and color profiles and things like that. I'm still learning a lot about color grading. However, I absolutely love it, and it changes my videos drastically. Now, if you're watching my videos, they are all color graded quite a lot. I think honestly, it makes the video. You know, if I'm watching a video, I can tell instantly if it's not color graded. And to me, like, color grading sets the mood. Like, you know, you look at a graphics piece and you kind of feel something towards it. You kind of do the same subconsciously with color grading, with video. Colours make such a huge difference to the vibe of the video, how it feels, how your audience responds to it. So for me, I always spend so much time colour grading because I love it, and it makes everything look really pretty. So win-win, you know? It's colour grading time, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm gonna grab my adjustment layer from the miscellaneous folder and pull that onto one of the higher video layers. As you can see, this is just a clear layer. If I turn it off and on, nothing happens. I have LM color at the top, and this is my workspace. I'm going to move it to a nicer frame for us to edit. I usually like to have my teeth visible in the frame, so something along these lines. It's not the most flattering frame, let's be honest, but it does the job. So my workspace here has the actual playback huge in the middle. Now this is because sometimes when you edit color, it can look really nice when the frame is small, and then as soon as you make it bigger, you can see little bits of noise in the background if you've done something slightly incorrect. So I just like to make it as big as I can, and also then still use the rest of the settings. So as you can see on the left, I have the lumetri scopes. Now this, if you're not aware, literally shows the whole information of the frame. So as you can see here, this is peaking above 100, so this is the light here. It works directly from the frame that you're on. So if I was to move this frame, you can see the lumetri scopes change. This is my favorite part now. Color grading usually takes me a couple of hours, so I'm just going to go through the very basics with you, because everybody color grades completely differently, but I'm going to go through the differences of each tool. If you don't want to watch this bit, you can skip to the next bit. I'll have time codes in the description box. In the basic color correction tab, that is where I spend the majority of my time. So you can import a LUT here. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It just literally depends on the video and whether I can create the desired look without a LUT. So sometimes I use the white balance selector. If there's something that's definitely white in the image, then I will use that to sort of help balance out. But you can see actually the color balance is perfect here. Well, it's not perfect, but it's good enough to my standards, and I just do very minimal adjustments to the white balance because I don't like adjusting it too much. After I've done that, I then go and actually adjust the visuals. Now, as you can see, this is pretty good. It's pretty spread out, and that's what you want. You don't want all of your imagery to be so compressed, otherwise you get no detail in your image. So I'm going to bring the whites down slightly because they're peaking at the top, and I usually like to keep them just below 100. I like to bring highlights up though, because I just think I like the look of quite bright highlights. Just play around with the whites and the highlights to see how I want it to look. Now, as I said, I like quite crushed blacks a little bit, so I usually bring those up had. Now, something that I do really like is contrast. I do really like contrast in my frames, so I always end up with some form of contrast, so I'm going to put that on 3 as well. I usually bring shadows up a little bit just to add a bit more detail, because there's a lot of detail in the shadows, and you know, sometimes you want that to show. Moving into the creative panel, now this is where I do the majority of my work. Sometimes I will add a LUT. Now, there are a few LUTs that I quite like using. I quite like the Kodak ones. Now, these are quite intense LUTs. I usually go for maybe like 20-25%. For this specific frame now, I'm now going to bring the blacks back down to 0. Now, something that I do color-wise is decrease the saturation slightly, and then increase the vibrance. I find that that makes the colors look a lot nicer and a lot less harsh. So on the color wheels, I usually bring the shadows across to a greener color. I love the way that green shadows look, and I like it. It sort of looks more film-like to me, and so I really like that. Mid-tones, you want them to reflect your skin tone, so I usually just move them up slightly towards an orange. And then highlights, I like to be quite white, so I do bring them over to the opposite of what I feel like the highlights are at the moment. And that is pretty much me done. So you can see the difference between non-color graded and color graded. It makes a huge difference, and it makes it more interesting. Next up, we have music and sound effects. Now, again, this is a huge part of video creation that I think a lot of people don't always discuss. Now, for me, I've always focused a lot on music and how I can incorporate that into my content, but I think a lot of people see music as sort of a filler thing, like it doesn't really matter, it doesn't really change your video. It really does. Pacing of videos is so important, and it's something that I am trying to get better at, I'm trying to work on. There's always something you can learn, even if you've been on YouTube for a few years. But definitely pacing of videos is so important, and something that really plays into that is the music, and it is sound effects. Now, different niches use different kinds of music, and even if you kind of don't really notice that a YouTuber's using music, there's usually some sort of background noise. To me, it adds a bit more of a comforting tone to the video, and that's what I want my videos to come across like. So music is so important. Now, I get my music mainly from Epidemic Sound. I absolutely love it. Again, this is something I've purchased for my other work, but I use for my YouTube as well. I use that for my podcast too, if you don't know. This is my podcast. It is coffee shop themed, and in the background I always have a little sound bed of a cafe, and I use Epidemic Sound for that. And I've built that up myself using the stems that they have on there. It's really, really useful. There are a couple of artists whose music that I use that aren't on Epidemic Sound or Thematic, so I'll put their names on screen. I absolutely love the vibe of all of these musicians. I feel like they fit my videos really well. Epidemic Sound is a paid subscription. It depends on your budget whether it's really worth it for you, because there are so many other places you can get some great music from. Sometimes it's not worth getting a huge subscription, but it depends on your content, and it depends on how you want your content to come across to an audience. So yeah, that is what I use. Thematic is amazing. I would recommend this to anybody because you can get it for free. YouTubers, Thematic, please, it is so good. There are some incredible artists on there. You don't have to pay for it. All you have to do is credit the artist, which you should be doing anyway if you can. And yeah, I think it's an amazing thing. Okay, fonts. Now, fonts, for me, make a huge difference. They add so much to the video. Now, I used to do loads of these like handwritten fonts, and I still love doing that. I don't do it as much anymore. Recently, I've definitely preferred a more minimalistic look to the text in my videos, so I've been using the following fonts. I always forget names of fonts, so they're on screen. But I love all of these. They are really great fonts, and I feel like they fit really well with the vibe of my videos and how I want to come across. So those are the fonts that I use a lot. I really like using Helvetica because it's such a simple font and it goes with everything. I am a Helvetica fan, if you could not tell. In terms of where I get my fonts, I get them either from Adobe Fonts, so I have an Adobe subscription, as I'm sure you've probably gathered by now. I also use dafont.com. These fonts are incredible as well. I just mix up a bunch of fonts and I find it works for me eventually, so yes, hopefully, fingers crossed it works. Something that I haven't yet talked about actually is graphics. Now, graphics are so important, and this is something that I have learned a lot more recently. I've been part of an Adobe Creator Camp, and in this camp they talked a lot about graphics and engaging your audience, and for me, graphics, I've now become a huge part of my videos and how I want them to come across. So you'll have seen throughout this, you've seen the little subscribe graphic. I got my graphics from Creator Set, amazing, but there are also some incredible ones on Adobe stock. Thank you to Adobe for sponsoring today's video. It is an absolute dream to work with Adobe. I've used Adobe's products for years now, so this is very, very cool, very cool. So yeah, I will see you very soon for another video. Thank you so much for watching again, and subscribe if you are new. I'll see you very soon. Bye guys.